let me tell you something uncomfortable, something most people would rather not talk about. It's the kind of truth we sweep under the rug in polite conversation, especially in a society so obsessed with youth, so dismissive of aging, and so unwilling to confront the deeply biological facts of life. We all know someone in our family, or perhaps someone we've cared for, who's aging. And if you've ever spent enough time in close quarters with a senior, particularly those who are less mobile, you might have noticed something peculiar, an odor, a subtle one at first, but unmistakable. It's not filth, not disease, it's something else. It has a name, nenono. It's a compound that develops in the skin of older individuals, not due to poor hygiene, not due to laziness, but because the body changes with age. Hormones shift. Skin chemistry transforms. Now, here's the shocking part. It doesn't go away with ordinary washing. You can shower every day, you can scrub your arms and chest and back, but if you miss this one specific area, behind the ears and the base of the neck, you'll never rid yourself of it. And that's the truth almost nobody knows. Why does this matter? Because neglecting this simple truth leads to shame, embarrassment, and isolation. And it reflects something much deeper, how we as a culture fail to honor the aging process with dignity. We pretend we're not going to get old. We sanitize it. We ignore the responsibilities that come with caring for those who once cared for us. So what's the lesson here? It's not just about odor. It's about awareness. It's about humility. It's about reclaiming responsibility for the body and extending care with knowledge and compassion. A culture that learns to wash behind its ears, literally and metaphorically, is a culture that matures. Don't dismiss the details. Cleanliness is not vanity. It's discipline. It's structure. And in that discipline, there is honor. As we age, the body undergoes numerous biological changes, many of which are hidden, silent, and largely misunderstood by the general public. One of the least talked about but most significant of these changes is how our skin chemistry evolves. With age, particularly after the age of 40, the body begins to produce a substance called 2-nonenal. This compound is an unsaturated aldehyde that originates from the oxidation of fatty acids, specifically omega-7 unsaturated fatty acids, which are more prevalent in the sebum of older individuals. Unlike youthful body odor, which is often linked to sweat and bacteria, this aging odor stems from a deep biochemical transformation within the body itself. And it's not something one can simply scrub off with soap and water in the usual way. What's most alarming is that the vast majority of people, young or old, have never heard of this. They don't know what it is, where it comes from, or how to address it. It's not taught in school. It's not mentioned in most hygiene guides. It's rarely even discussed in caregiving training, which is shocking when you consider how many adult children, spouses, or professional caregivers are in close physical contact with seniors every single day. The result is often confusion. People might notice a persistent, slightly greasy or grassy smell, sometimes described as resembling old books or stale beer, but they can't identify the cause. Worse, the person experiencing the odor may not even be aware of it, leading to embarrassment or a slow withdrawal from social situations due to subtle cues from others. This isn't just about cleanliness, it's about biology, and it's about dignity. Seniors are not at fault. This isn't a matter of laziness or neglect. It's simply how the body evolves with time. However, the lack of public awareness means that what should be a simple adjustment in hygiene practices becomes instead a source of shame and misunderstanding. There's an unnecessary stigma attached to something that is entirely natural and universal, assuming we're lucky enough to live long enough to experience it ourselves. Understanding this change is crucial not just for seniors, but for those around them. It demands a shift in perspective, from one of judgment to one of informed responsibility. By acknowledging the biochemical reality of aging skin, we can begin to treat our elders with more empathy, precision, and care. We can create an environment where aging isn't seen as decline, but as a stage of life deserving of its own specific knowledge and respect. When most people think of hygiene, they imagine the standard routine. A shower, maybe some soap or body wash, a quick rinse, and done. The assumption is that if you do this daily, or even a few times a week, you're clean. But when it comes to addressing the specific odor that develops in aging individuals, that assumption falls short. The compound responsible for this odor, 2-non-enal, is not water-soluble in the traditional sense. It adheres to the skin and becomes embedded in the natural oils produced by the sebaceous glands. Regular soap and water are often ineffective because they are not formulated to break down this particular type of oil and the oxidized compounds it contains. What makes the issue even more insidious is that people think they're doing enough. They think they're clean, but the smell persists and they don't know why. The key area where this compound tends to accumulate more than anywhere else is behind the ears and around the base of the neck. These spots are frequently overlooked during a typical wash, even by people who are otherwise meticulous. Why? Because they're not places that sweat heavily. They're not visibly dirty. They don't itch or show signs of buildup in the way armpits or feet might, so they get ignored. But these zones, rich in sebaceous glands and prone to lower ventilation, become hot spots for the accumulation of the skin in these areas becomes a kind of quiet reservoir for the aging scent, one that isn't addressed unless targeted directly. Even those who assist elderly individuals with bathing often miss this detail. Caregivers may focus on what seems most urgent: mobility, comfort, safety in the tub, and in doing so, they skip over the finer points. Behind the ears becomes an afterthought, not a priority. And yet, this tiny patch of skin can be the very thing contributing to a persistent, unpleasant scent that affects social confidence and interpersonal interactions. The problem isn't just the presence of the odor, it's the fact that people try everything they know and still fail to solve it, which can be deeply frustrating and demoralizing. This knowledge isn't obscure, it's available to anyone who goes looking for it, yet it's astonishingly absent from mainstream conversations about personal care. Specialized soaps that neutralize 2-non-enal do exist, and when used correctly, especially in the right areas, they can make a profound difference. But first, there needs to be a shift in awareness. The idea that routine hygiene is enough for everyone at every age is a comforting myth. The truth is more complex, and addressing it properly means understanding the aging body in all its nuance. Modern society has become deeply uncomfortable with aging. We glorify youth, celebrate vitality, and hide away the slow, inevitable changes that come with getting older. In the process, we've created a cultural silence around some of the most basic realities of later life. Changes in the body, the senses, and even something as fundamental as the way someone smells. This discomfort isn't just psychological, it manifests in real-world consequences. One of the most overlooked and yet impactful results of this silence is the shame many seniors feel about their bodies. When an older person begins to notice or is told that they have an unpleasant odor, even if they are doing everything they can to stay clean, it creates an emotional wound. They feel embarrassed, confused, and often helpless, but they're not failing, the system around them is. The origin of this shame is rooted in ignorance. Most people, even caregivers and family members, don't know that there's a specific reason for this scent, that it's tied to a chemical produced by the skin as it ages. Instead, there's a subtle but persistent judgment that arises. People may assume the individual isn't bathing enough, or that they are unhygienic or careless. That judgment creates distance. Friends might begin to visit less. Family members may feel reluctant to hug or sit close. The older person senses this shift. often without an explanation, and internalizes it. They start to feel like a burden. They may even begin to withdraw socially, not because they want solitude, but because they can't bear the unspoken discomfort of others. This dynamic reveals a profound failure in how our culture addresses aging. We talk about aging as something to be fought, reversed, or hidden. Rarely do we speak of it as something to be understood, respected, and cared for with intelligence. The result is a generation of older adults who feel invisible, or worse, noticed only for the things that embarrass them. The issue of age, body odor, becomes symbolic of this broader neglect. Instead of being offered practical, compassionate solutions, many seniors are left to suffer silently, trying to deal with a problem they don't fully understand and weren't warned about. What's needed is a cultural shift, one that makes space for honest conversations about the body as it changes without judgment or avoidance. When we refuse to talk about something as natural as an aging person's scent, we don't protect dignity, we erode it. And that erosion spreads, touching not only the lives of the elderly, but the character of the society around them. Responsibility is often thought of in grand terms: raising a family, building a career, contributing to society. But the most impactful responsibilities are usually found in the smallest details, the kinds that are easy to overlook precisely because they don't demand attention in obvious ways. One such detail is hygiene, specifically how we care for others and ourselves in the quieter, more invisible aspects of aging. When someone is aging and develops a persistent body odor despite bathing regularly, it's not simply a matter of missed cleanliness. It's a sign that something nuanced and specific is being overlooked. And it's our responsibility to notice those things, to take them seriously, and to respond with knowledge rather than dismissal. Behind the ear hygiene is one such detail. It's easy to miss. The area is small, unassuming, not a part of the body we typically focus on, yet it's where the compound 2-nonanal, the cause of the characteristic odor in aging skin, tends to build up the most. Neglecting this single area day after day, week after week, becomes enough for that scent to persist and intensify. And the consequences of ignoring it are not just physical, they are emotional and psychological. The person may become self-conscious. They might isolate themselves, interpret the subtle reactions of others as rejection, and feel increasingly ashamed or even depressed. But the fix is deceptively simple: awareness. Just knowing that this is a high-risk area for odor accumulation changes the entire dynamic. Instead of trying to cover the scent with perfume or deodorant, which doesn't work in this case, or assuming the person isn't bathing correctly, we shift into a mode of informed care. We understand that proper hygiene isn't just about frequency, it's about specificity. It's about knowing where and how to clean and why it matters. This changes the relationship between caregiver and elder. It becomes more respectful, more attuned, more dignified. Being responsible in this context isn't dramatic. It doesn't require advanced medical knowledge or specialized training. It requires paying attention. It requires asking the right questions and being open to learning uncomfortable truths. That is the essence of responsibility, not reacting only when things fall apart, but acting with foresight, curiosity, and humility. And in that, there's a kind of reverence, because when we care for someone well, not just broadly, but in the smallest details, we're saying that their presence matters, that their dignity matters, and that even the least visible parts of them are worthy of attention. That's not just hygiene, that's humanity. Cleanliness is often dismissed as a superficial concern, a matter of appearance or social acceptability. But when you look closer, when you really examine the role it plays in our lives, it becomes clear that cleanliness is something far deeper than soap and water. It's a form of structure. It's a reflection of order, of discipline, of the way we engage with the world and with ourselves. Especially as we age and as our bodies change in ways we can't control, the act of maintaining cleanliness becomes a powerful declaration of autonomy and self-respect. It says, I still matter, my body still matters. For younger people, cleanliness might feel routine or even optional, but for older individuals, it becomes an act of resilience. The body produces different oils, changes in scent, texture, even sensitivity. It becomes harder to reach certain areas, to stand for long periods in the shower, to scrub thoroughly without assistance. And yet maintaining that discipline, either alone or with help, is an expression of personal integrity. It's not just about avoiding discomfort or social embarrassment. It's about preserving identity. When a person no longer feels clean, when their scent starts to betray their efforts, it doesn't just affect how others perceive them, it alters how they perceive themselves. This is why the issue of age odor is so important to approach with seriousness. It's easy to dismiss it as a minor concern or worse, a topic too impolite to bring up. But doing so misses the deeper point. When we learn that something as simple as washing behind the ears more thoroughly can reduce or eliminate that scent, and we act on that knowledge, we're engaging in something more profound than hygiene. We're practicing respect for the body, for the person, and for the challenges of aging. Cleanliness, in this sense, becomes a kind of moral act. It demands consistency, it demands awareness, and it demands care, not just for the physical self, but for the emotional and social well-being of the individual. When we help an elderly person maintain proper hygiene, especially in areas they may not even know need attention, we are participating in a small but deeply meaningful form of dignity preservation. It's not vanity. It's a disciplined commitment to honoring one's left of one's independence, one's place in the world, and one's inner sense of worth. To take that seriously is to understand that personal care, far from being shallow, is one of the most foundational expressions of humanity. A society reveals its values not just in how it celebrates achievement or innovation, but in how it treats its most vulnerable, its children, its sick, and perhaps most tellingly, its elders. When a culture matures, it does not turn away from aging. It leans into it with understanding, reverence, and care. That maturity is reflected in the willingness to confront even the uncomfortable truths, like the changes in body odor that occur with age. These aren't topics that come up in casual conversation. They're not celebrated in media or advertised on billboards, but they matter, because they affect the dignity, confidence, and emotional well-being of real people. People who have lived full lives and now face the subtle isolations that can come with getting older. Caring for the elderly shouldn't be reactive. It shouldn't start when there's already a crisis or only when something becomes unbearable. It should be proactive, thoughtful, and informed. Understanding something as specific as the role of two non-anal in the scent associated with aging is a small detail on the surface, but in practice, it's the difference between neglect and attentiveness. A culture that educates caregivers, family members, and even seniors themselves on such a matter demonstrates not only compassion, but sophistication. It shows that we are capable of looking deeper, of addressing the needs that aren't loudly voiced, but quietly endured. The failure to do so, on the other hand, speaks volumes. When seniors are left to feel ashamed of their bodies, or when they're unknowingly burdened by something that could easily be managed with better knowledge, it reflects a kind of societal blindness. It shows that we are more interested in preserving illusions of perfection than in offering genuine support. But if we shift our approach, if we stop pretending aging is something to hide and instead treat it as a natural, shared human experience, then we make room for a more humane and intelligent society. This is what maturity looks like. It's not the denial of decay, but the graceful management of it. It's not the worship of youth, but the honoring of all life stages with equal care. And it's not just about policies or institutions. It's about small, practical actions repeated every day, like taking the time to wash behind someone's ears, like knowing why that matters. That kind of care is quiet but profound. It signals that we have moved beyond shallow judgments and embraced a deeper, more responsible relationship with the realities of aging. And so what began as a simple conversation about odor, something most people would rather ignore, unfolds into something much larger. This isn't just about personal hygiene. It's about the dignity of aging. It's about the power of awareness and how even the smallest, most specific acts of care can restore confidence, connection, and meaning. If we can't attend to the little things, like the area behind the ears, what does that say about our willingness to confront the bigger ones? The uncomfortable truths, the ones that ask us to look a little closer, to act with a little more compassion, a little more precision. Caring for our elders is not just a social obligation, it's a moral act. And when we approach it with humility and knowledge, when we say, I see you, I understand what you're facing, and I'm here to help with even the things that go unnoticed, we elevate both ourselves and the people we serve. It's not weakness to age, it's life. And life, in all its stages, deserves to be met with grace, with attention, and with honor. So take this knowledge forward. Don't ignore the details. Don't shrink away from the truth. Be the kind of person and help build the kind of culture that faces discomfort with care and transforms it into dignity. Thank you for your time, for your openness to a topic many shy away from, and for your willingness to be part of a more thoughtful and compassionate world. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, and please don't forget to wash behind your ears. Thank you.